Hi guys, hope you're all doing good and I hope your preparation is on track. Today on the 11th of January 2024, let us look at some of the important issues in news in 30 minutes. The first issue is why has South Africa taken Israel to the International Court of Justice? On January 11th and 12th, the Union's principal judicial organ will hear arguments that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. What exactly is genocide and why is South Africa getting involved in this issue? Okay, the reason first that why is South Africa taking the issue to International Court of Justice about Israel, the reason is because both these nations are signatories of something called Genocide Convention. Okay, they are both signatories of something called Genocide Convention. And this Genocide Convention is a convention that comes within the ambit of United Nations. And since International Court of Justice is the judicial organ, International Court of Justice is the judicial organ of the United Nations, South Africa has approached the International Court of Justice complaining that Israel has committed genocide in violation of this convention. Okay, what will be the ruling? That is something that we have to wait and see. But here, from the exam's perspective, you have to know two things. What is International Court of Justice? How is it different from International Criminal Court? Because International Criminal Court is the one that will try for those war criminals who have committed something called genocide. So if that is the case, why is it that ICJ is now coming into picture when it comes to genocide? This is something that you should learn. So for that, you should have a complete clarity of what is ICJ and what is ICC, that is International Criminal Court. So this is what we'll be looking at first. After this, we'll be looking at what is this Genocide Convention. Okay, what is this Genocide Convention? Because this is a convention that is passed in the United Nations and it defines what is a genocide. The convention defines what exactly is a genocide. So before we get into what exactly is Genocide Convention, first we will learn what is the major difference between the International Court of Justice, okay, and the International Criminal Court. This is very, very important from your prelims perspective. One question definitely will appear on United Nations. You should understand that. United Nations is a theme and one question will always be there between or within United Nations or some associated organization of United Nations. So please make sure that you are well versed with this United Nations. Anyways, now first let us look at what is the difference between ICJ and ICC. That is International Court of Justice. This is International Court of Justice and this is International Criminal Court. Okay. The first is the International Court of Justice. The International Court of Justice is known as the World Court. It is known as the World Court. Okay. And this International Court of Justice is part of the United Nations. It is part of United Nations. It is the principal judicial arm. This is the principal judicial arm of the United Nations. So that is what is ICJ. The next is International Criminal Court. This International Criminal Court is independent. It is independent of United Nations. And those members who are signatories of something called Rome Statute, those members who are signatory of this Rome Statute become the members of ICC, that is International Criminal Court. Now, this Rome Statute, the Rome Statute came into force in 2002. The Rome Statute came into force in 2002. Okay. And International Criminal Court is independent of United Nations but can work with UNSC. How, I'll tell later, but it can work with UNSC. That is what is ICJ, International Court of Justice, and ICC, that's International Criminal Court. Now the next thing what you should understand is you got the introduction of both these courts. The next is International Court of Justice. It basically deals with the countries or it deals with sovereign states. So any disputes that arises between states, these disputes are settled by the International Court of Justice. Okay. Now the International Court of Justice does not deal with individuals. It does not deal with individuals. Okay. However, if you take the International Criminal Court, this definitely deals with individuals. It deals with those individuals who are, part of crimes such as, one, crime of genocide. Second, who are part of crime against humanity. Okay. The third is they are part of war crimes. And fourth, in 2018, they introduced one more, that is crimes of aggression. Crimes of aggression. What do you mean by crimes of aggression? It can be, one example is use of child soldiers. Use of child soldiers. That can be one type of crimes of aggression. This was added in 2018. So, International Criminal Court basically tries individuals who have committed crimes, for example, crimes of genocide, crime against humanity, war crimes, or crimes of aggression. For example, ICC, there was a case that was filed against Vladimir Putin, that is the president of Russia, against crimes committed by this person on Russia-Ukraine war in Ukraine. The Russia-Ukraine war in Ukraine. Okay, it was, it is alleged that this president has committed war crimes, and hence there has been a case that has been launched in the International Criminal Court. So this is what is the objective of this International Criminal Court. It basically deals with individuals, and the International Criminal Court, as the name suggests, will deal with criminal cases. It basically deals with criminal cases. But if I come to International Court of Justice, one, it deals between disputes of states, and it deals mainly between civil cases. It mainly resolves civil cases. For example, it can be what all are the cases that it can deal. The one is, it can deal with sovereignty and boundaries. There can be some boundary problem that it can deal with. The next is, it can be due to treaty violations. The next can be, it can be due to some maritime disputes, or it can be due to trade disputes. Okay, or it can be due to violation of a convention. Now, I will give you the clarity that South Africa has approached International Court of Justice against Israel because it has complained that Israel has violated the Genocide Convention on which both are signatories. And if you can observe, South Africa and Israel are both states. South Africa is not trying to punish, or it is not trying to allege any type of genocide committed by any individual. South Africa is alleging that the violation has happened at the level of state. Because it has happened at the level of state, one, and also because these two nations, South Africa and Israel, are both signatories of Genocide Convention, South Africa has all the authority to go to the International Court of Justice. Okay. Now, the same, if the complaint was or alleging, if that individual has committed the crime, then they should have gone to International Criminal Court. But since it is a dispute between states, and second, since it's a convention within United Nations that has been violated, the complaint has been gone to International Court of Justice. So I hope you understood what is the difference between ICJ and ICC. Okay. So let me just summarize. I'm still not done with it. Let me just finish the entire thing and then summarize. Now you learned what are all the functionalities of ICJ and ICC. But now let us see the composition aspects. If I take the composition aspects of ICJ and ICC, now one, you should understand that ICJ consists of 15 judges. Okay, and each judge will have a 9-year term. Okay, and these judges are elected both by United Nations General Assembly as well as United Nations Security Council. Okay, and they elect these judges such that 5 judges are elected every 3 years. 5 judges are elected every 3 years so that there is continuity. Within the court. There is continuity within the court. Okay, this is what is ICJ. If you come to ICC has 18 judges. Okay, and each judge will also have 9-year term. Okay, and all the judges will come from member countries. Okay, who are all the member countries? All those countries who are signatories of Rome Statute are member countries. So the judges will all come from the member countries. Along with these 18 judges, there will also be one prosecutor, and this prosecutor's job is to investigate the case before it is taken up by the judge. So this prosecutor will investigate the case and then recommend the judge to take up the case in the court. Okay, to take up the case in the court. So this is the composition of International Criminal Court. Okay, now coming to the membership, all the members of United Nations. So United Nations has 193 members. All these members of United Nations are also members of International Court of Justice. Okay, now one more addition is, even those who are not members of United Nations, can also become members of International Court of Justice. The only thing is they have to sign a convention. They have to on International Court of Justice. They have to ratify a statute. They have to ratify a statute of ICJ. If they ratify this statute of ICJ, though they are not members of United Nations, they can be part of International Court of Justice. So that is what is about International Court of Justice. However, if I come to International Criminal Court, as I already told you, those members who are signatories of Rome Statute will be termed as members, and currently there are around 105 members, and India is not a part of International Criminal Court. So this is about the ICJ and ICC. So I hope you understood the difference between the two courts, and I also hope that you understood why South Africa has taken Israel to ICJ on the commission of genocide, which has resulted in the violation of the Genocide Convention. So to just recap the difference between ICJ and ICC, ICJ is the world court. The International Court of Justice is known as the world court, and it is part of the United Nations principal judicial arm. It takes up any type of dispute that happens between states. It does not deal with any individuals. It will also not deal with any type of corporations, private entities or NGOs. It does not deal with corporations, private entities or NGOs. It deals only with any disputes that arises out of states. It basically is in charge of civil cases like sovereignty and boundary issues, treaty violations, maritime disputes, trade disputes, violation of convention. With respect to South Africa and Israel, South Africa has taken Israel to the ICJ on the pretext that it has violated the Genocide Convention, for which both are signatories, and Genocide Convention is a convention signed and it has been ratified by the United Nations General Assembly. So the ICJ allows the countries to come or it entertains the complaint taken by the South Africa. Okay, so this is ICJ. And ICJ also has 15 judges, 9-year term, elected by UNG and UNSC, 5 judges every 3 years, so that there is continuity. Okay, and all members of United Nations are automatically members of ICJ. Even non-members can also become members of ICJ. Now, coming to International Criminal Court, it is independent of United Nations. Okay, anyone who is a signatory of Rome Statute becomes a member of ICC. Currently, there are 105 members, and it was established, or it came into force in 2002. It tries individuals who are alleged to have committed crimes of genocide, crime against humanity, war crimes, and crimes of aggression. These are the 4 crimes on which it entertains complaints. Now it deals with criminal cases, and as I told you, this ICC has 18 judges with 9-year term. All are coming from the member countries, and there is one prosecutor who does the investigation and recommends to a judge to take up the case. Okay, so India is not a member of ICC. So I hope you understood the entire aspect of what is International Court of Justice and what is International Criminal Court. All right. So this is about the difference between these two, judicial body. One more aspect is both the ICJ and ICC are located in Hague, Netherlands. They are both located in Hague, Netherlands. So I hope I have covered all the different dimensions that the questions can come from prelims perspective. This is how you have to elaborate and you have to study. I keep telling you, always make sure that you study the factual dimension. Look at how much of factual dimension that I have researched and brought in. Okay, who are the judges? How are they elected? Whom are, the trial, whom are put for trial. Okay, one more thing what I forgot is, I told you that ICC is independent of United Nations. It's independent of United Nations, but it also works along with UNSC. The reason why I tell it works along with UNSC is, see, ICC will try those crimes that are committed by the members. It will try to adjudicate on those crimes committed by the members. It can also adjudicate those crimes that are referred to it by United Nations Security Council. So in this way, because it can try those crimes that are referred to it by United Nations Security Council, it works along with United Nations Security Council. So like this, you have to collect more and more factual dimensions in order to enrich your inventory of knowledge about a particular topic. If you keep reading English, then it is no use. You have to, under any circumstances, develop factual dimensions. So I hope you understood how exactly to study a topic from prelims perspective. Okay. Now the last is, what is this Genocide Convention? Okay, it is because of this Genocide Convention that South Africa has taken the Israel to the International Court of Justice. The Genocide Convention is, the full form of Genocide Convention is the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of Crime of Genocide. Prevention and Punishment of Crime of Genocide. Okay. Now, this Genocide Convention was codified. This is the codified form of, genocide. This is the codified form of crime of genocide for the first time. First time there was codification of the crime of genocide. Okay. And this was adopted. This was adopted by United Nations General Assembly in the year 1948, and it came into effect in 1951. So 1948 it was adopted, and in 1951 it came into force. Okay. Now it defines genocide. Okay. What is the definition of genocide? It defines genocide as 1. Killing members in a group. That is the first definition. When you kill members who belong to a particular group, that is a genocide. The next is causing serious mental harm. Causing serious mental harm, that is also considered as a genocide. The next is, you are trying to inflict physical destruction. You are trying to inflict physical destruction on life of a certain group. Physical destruction of life of a certain group. The fourth is, you are imposing measures. You are imposing measures in order to prevent birth within groups. To prevent birth within groups. That is another definition. The last one is, you are forcibly transferring children. You are forcibly transferring children from one group to another group. See, all these 5 come under the definition of genocide. Okay. And the same convention says that there are 2 important elements to a genocide. One is the physical act. And the 2 is the specific event. The one is the physical act and the two is the specific event. So these two, the physical act and the specific event, is what defines a genocide. And these are the 5 instances which is put in this convention that define genocide. Okay, so I hope you have understood this. Now within this same convention, inside this convention, it is there that if there is any dispute regarding interpretation, regarding interpretation or violation, then the members can approach the International Court of Justice. Using this particular section, the South Africa has told that Israel has violated this convention and hence has dragged Israel to the International Court of Justice. So this is what is Genocide Convention, and I hope you understood what is an International Court of Justice and how is it different from the International Criminal Court. Again, I am stressing this is how you have to progress and prepare on every topic in prelims. Okay, make sure that you dig deeper and develop a factual dimension on the topic so that any type of factual information that is asked, you should be able to tackle it. Okay. However, this finishes the first topic of the day. It was very elaborate because I wanted to bring prelims perspective into it. Okay. The next is the organ transplant issue. Unfortunately, this has happened. This again can be used as a case study in your paper 4, but I am going to talk from GS2 angle because we are talking about one particular act, but you can also use this in GS4. Okay. Look at this. Complete the organ transplant process in just 6 to 8 weeks, says the Delhi High Court, because what has happened is a petitioner who was seeking a kidney transplant died waiting for the permission to come through. How sad is this? Okay, waiting for the permission to come through, that patient has died. Don't you think this shows apathy on the part of the bureaucracy? Don't you think this shows lack of commitment on the part of the bureaucracy? Don't you think this also shows the lack of service orientation on the part of the bureaucracy? And who is accountable for this? Who is accountable for this death? Is it the medical field? Is it the bureaucratic field? Or is it the governance itself? Who exactly is accountable and who is going to be punished for such an instance of a person who has died waiting for the permissions to come through? When the organ is available, the transplantation can be done, but still the person dies because that person has to wait for the permissions to come through. Unfortunately, this is what has happened, and this is what I want you to think. I want you to know how you can address the different stakeholders, how you can make it more accountable, and how the transparency can be brought in. Okay. However, let's look at the issue a little bit in depth now. While there are stringent rules of organ transplantation, the court has said that timelines must be followed in true spirit of transplant law. Okay. Now let us focus on this transplant law. Okay. So if I tell transplant law, we have to again dig deeper in what exactly is this transplant law. Let us get on with it. So the transplant law, the full form of the law is the transplantation of human organs and tissues, the Transplantation of Human Organs and Tissues Act 1994. They also brought a rules below this act in 2014. We'll deal with that later, but this is the main act that deals with the Transplantation of Human Organs and Tissues Act 1994. Okay, now let us deal with some of the important provisions here. The first provision is it defines a transplant can happen either from a deceased person, a transplant can happen either from a deceased person, or the transplantation can happen from living persons. A few weeks back we had discussed how the living persons transaction is skewed sexually, that more women donate the organs and not men. However, that is a different issue. But now coming to this, the Transplantation of Human Organs and Tissues Act 1994. The first is, it tells transplantation of organs and tissues can happen either from a deceased person or individual, the person who has died, or it can also happen from a living person. The second is, in most cases of living persons who are donating the organs, it can be done only by near relative. Okay, it can be only done by near relative. Now it defines who are this near relative. Okay, who are this near relative? These are the people who are near relative. 1, they have to be parents. 2, they have to be siblings. 3, they have to be spouses. 4, they have to be grandparents. Or last is they have to be grandchildren. Okay, only these are declared as near relative, and most of the cases, I am telling most, I am not telling only those one, most cases of living persons who can donate organ should be near relative, and the near relative is this. There can be no one else. It is defined in section 2 of this act, Transplant Law Act 1994. Okay, it has defined that these are the people who are near relative. Okay, now there also is a provision that allows something called altruistic donations. It allows altruistic donations, but these donations can be done by distant relatives. It cannot be done by someone whom you don't have contact with. It has to be done by distant relatives. It can be done by in-laws. It can be done by long-time friends. See, only these are allowed. Okay, now altruistic donations, that is donations that are done, organ donations that are done on good faith. This can happen only by distant relatives or in-laws or long-time friends. Okay, again, you cannot ask altruistic donations from a stranger. This is not allowed. That is another part of the Transplantation of Human Organs and Tissues Act 1994. The next is it prohibits, the act prohibits any type of offering of pay for organs. You cannot offer, and you cannot advertise, and you cannot negotiate for organ transplantation. And if you are trying to put any type of financial exchange for your organs, or if you are going to breach this law, you are going to be punished for 10 years in prison or up to 1 crore fine. Okay, so this is the 4th provision. The next is there is something called authorization committee. Okay, there is something called authorization committee. The main job of this committee is in order to stop illegal transplantation or breaking the law. Okay, so basically it is the watchdog to ensure that the transplantation, it is a watchdog to ensure that the transplantation will not happen on commercial or financial lines. So basically it is an organ that will take care of investigating those donors and recipients that they are in some form of relation. It should not be a financial relation, that there has to be some form of relation. Either they have to be near relative or they have to be distant relative. So this is what is done by the authorization committee. Okay, and who will compose this committee? The composition of this committee is prescribed. The composition of the committee is prescribed by the central government. It is prescribed to the central government. Okay, so this is what are these are some of the important provisions of the Transplantation of Human Organs Act 1994. Under this act, they brought a few provisions via rules. One important provision that they brought in 2014. In 2014, one important rule, they brought many rules, and one important provisions within that rule is if the recipient is in critical condition, and needs transplantation in a week, okay, then if this is the case, then the hospital can be approached for expedited evaluation. That is, they can fasten up the evaluation, or the hospitals can be approached in order to request them to expedite the evaluation process, so that the entire process of transplantation can occur much faster. Okay, however, as I told you, this case study shows that timelines were not followed. This case study showed that organ was there to transplant, however the permission for transplantation of organ was not given in time. This led to the death of the individual, which is very, very unfortunate. Okay, if that is the case, who is held accountable? This is the problem. However, what the Delhi High Court has told is the Delhi High Court has just told that the Ministry of Family and Health should make sure that they ensure that timelines are followed with respect to transplant law. Okay, so this is all the court has told, but who will fix the accountability for the damage already done? And how do you fix the timeline? See, the dilemma here is, by fixing the timeline, you cannot force the authorization committee to not do its investigation. The authorization committee also has to do the investigation thoroughly so that there is no commercial angle involved. So there has to be a balance of legality and also there has to be a balance of urgency. So this is a very good dilemma of legality versus urgency. Urgency because it involves the life of a patient. Legality is because it involves a lot of angles where commercial and financial aspects can be exploited from the poor. So this shows the dilemma, and this is where the balance of law becomes very, very important. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. Let us get on with the next issue of the day. The last issue of the day is UGC has introduced two important concepts. The first is the National Credit Framework. It has introduced something called National Credit Framework. This we'll call it as NCrF. Okay, and whatever credit that comes here gets accumulated in a digital archive. It gets accumulated in a digital archive which is known as Academic Bank of Credit. This we will call as ABC. Okay, so it has introduced two terms, National Credit Framework, and also it has introduced something called Academic Bank of Credit. Okay, so let us just look at this from the exam point of view. What is this and what is the intention of this? Now, the first is, let us look at what is this National Credit Framework. Okay, the first is, it is a, as the name suggests, it is nothing but it provides a comprehensive credits. It provides a comprehensive credit along three verticals. It provides comprehensive credit along three verticals. The three verticals are National School Education Qualification Framework. This is the one vertical. The next vertical that it provides, that is B, is National Higher Education Qualification Framework. The third vertical that it provides is National Skills Qualification Framework. So it tries to accumulate credits from school, okay, from higher education and from skills. So all this is what is taken into the National Credit Framework. So it tries to evaluate the student from three different angles, that is school, higher education and skills. Okay, so as I told you, it tries to consolidate. It tries to consolidate all credits. It tries to consolidate all credits earned by students. It consolidates all credit earned by students across school education, higher education and vocational education. So three things it is combining. So what happens is, a student is now incentivized not only in school education but also in vocational education, because the credits accumulate even because of vocational education, which the student can use in its future endeavors. So this kind of incentivizes both school education and vocational education. Okay, and the third is, this particular National Credit Framework, it emphasizes on inter and multidisciplinary studies. Inter and multidisciplinary studies. For example, higher education can be done, along with that vocational education also can be done. If higher education is done on science, vocational education can be done on some type of art. So science and art, it's a mix of multidisciplinary studies. This will create a craft of combination of subjects that will give students more flexibility. Okay, it gives students more flexibility. So to summarize, National Credit Framework is a comprehensive credit framework that's done on three verticals: at school level, higher education and skills, and it consolidates all credits earned by the students across school, higher and vocational education. And it also focuses on inter and multidisciplinary education, because you are trying to emphasize on all the three verticals. That in turn will give a craft of combination of subjects to the students, which in turn provides flexibility within our current education system, which is required for meeting the demand of the students in current era. Okay, so now you got to know what is National Credit Framework. Now let us talk about the academic bank of credits. Okay, as I told you, this academic bank of credit is nothing but a digital archive, and this digital archive is having all the credits that are earned by the students at various levels. All the credits earned by the students at various levels. Okay, this is the second point. The next is the platform. This platform allows accumulation, this platform allows verification, and this platform also allows redemption of credits. So it is not just sitting there, you also can use it for verification, and more importantly you can also use it for redemption of credits. So basically it is an authentic reference for students record. It's an authentic reference for students record, and it has a validity of around 7 years. The validity of this particular digital archive is about 7 years. So overall, to summarize, UGC has released NCrF, that is National Credit Framework, which is stored in the academic bank of credits. And what is the use of this according to NGC? NGC has told that one, this promotes student centric learning, because students are kept at the center and they are given the choice and flexibility. It promotes student centric learning. It promotes inter and multidisciplinary learning. As I told you, because there is vocational education, there is school education, higher education, it provides multidisciplinary learning. It also promotes ability to learn at their own pace. Ability to learn at their own pace. The next is, it also provides multiple exit and entry points. Multiple exit and entry points from the same or different institutions. It provides multiple and entry and exit points from same or different institutions. So overall, this is what is academic bank of credits and the National Credit Framework that has been released by the University Grant Commission. Okay, so I hope the issues were helpful, and I hope you could connect the topics to your UPSC oriented preparation. Okay, always make sure that you take the articles and you only extract those points that are necessary for your exams. Okay, you don't worry too much about the perspectives given in the book, because the perspectives will be very biased and prejudiced. You only take those informations that are required for you to develop your perspective, your thought process, and factual dimensions that are very, very important for prelims. Okay, again, when you're studying anything in prelims, focus more on your factual dimension. It can be in your basic subject or current affairs. Start focusing on the factual dimension. Okay, with that, I'm going to finish off today's issues of news in 30 minutes. I hope you people enjoyed it. Please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. The more you share with your peers and the more views that I get, I'll be incentivized to do this on a regular basis. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for all the love and support. I'm going to see you tomorrow. Bye.